Hey guys, welcome back. Last video I talked about air changes and how to calculate those air changes and what that means to a given space. Today I'm going to go a little deeper and talk about the other code requirements that are also given with your supply air change requirements, and they're your outside air change requirements. This is healthcare specific. So if I'm looking at FGI, which is where I get most of the healthcare codes from, Federal Guideline Institute, there are also codes that are specific to state, but for this example, I'm going to use the federal guideline codes, and that's ASHRAE 170. For operating room, it says I have 20 air changes required and 4 air changes of outside air required, and I'm just gonna kind of put that code up here so you can see. Operating room is at the top. Minimum outdoor air change, 4. Minimum total air change, 20. Okay, and so that's where you get those numbers from. What that means is out of this volume of air that's coming in and out, we want a certain percentage of that to be outside air. And right here, if you have a total airspace or total space where majority of it is operating rooms, you would want to use these numbers to determine the outside air percentage of your air handling unit design. You can see in some of my other videos how to utilize that outside air percentage to do your air handling unit design. So right here, if we have an operating room, let's say I have a unit that serves 10 operating rooms, how would I determine my outside air percentage for that? Well, it's given in code. So in each space, I need 4 air changes of outside air and 20 air changes of supply. So it's a simple fraction. So 4 out of 20, 420. It's funny. That gives you 20% of the air going in here needs to be outside air. So on your air handling unit, if you're designing for a space that has mainly ORs, you'll want that unit to be designed for 20% outside air. And that kind of helps maintain efficiency so you're not dumping in too much outside air that's not necessarily needed. So then we go to patient rooms, and then you can see that the patient room has 6 air changes of supply air. So that's not as much as your operating room, but it requires 2 air changes of outside air. And so we do that simple fraction again, 2 out of 6. That gives us about 33% outside air that's required for each of those spaces. So on our air handling unit, we would want to use this number to design our unit for the most efficient way. So we're not oversupplying to meet our outside air percentage. We're supplying the minimum required to get this outside air percentage. And same with the operating room. And so you ask me why would the operating room have a lower outside air percentage than a patient room? Isn't that supposed to be a clean space? Well, yes, it is. I mean, there's other code requirements that are given where your operating room has to have a certain filtration, HEPA filtration, and what it does is when it's dumping all this air 20 times, it would rather maintain the clean air that's going through some filtration going back to the space, as opposed to introducing more ventilation air. Ventilation air is derived from understanding the amount of people in a space that need fresh air. When you're in an operating room, you do have quite a few people, but when you're dumping so much air into a space, 4 air changes of directly outside air, that's every hour, then you know that it's getting enough ventilation. You're not at least not providing that, because your patient room that only requires 2 air changes of outside air. This requires 4. So you're still providing more ventilation, but a percentage of the total airflow is less than the percentage of the total airflow as your patient room. And this kind of gives you an example of why you wouldn't want to have one air handling unit serving 2 separate types of spaces. Then you can run into issues about being very inefficient, or oversupplying different spaces, you're not getting the correct filtration, or you have too high of a pressure drop. This is why it's important to understand your system that your air handling unit design is for. And that kind of gives you your outside air percentage to calculate the mixed air, your cooling coil, and so on. Um, that's a quick lesson over here, just kind of going into depth a little bit about air changes and outside air change requirements. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and I appreciate you guys learning with me. Thanks.